The chamber was silent but not peaceful. It hummed with power like the air before a storm. Tall walls made of black stone rose high above, glowing faintly with lines of blue light that pulsed like slow heartbeats. Around the edges, alien beings sat in tall, curved seats. Some had too many eyes. Others had no eyes at all. Some floated. Some clicked their claws together nervously. All of them watched the center of the room. There, standing alone, was a human. His name was Elias Rourke. He wore a simple gray uniform, torn at one sleeve, stained with dust and something darker. His boots were scuffed. His face was tired, but his eyes were sharp. He did not tremble. He did not look away. Above him, 12 figures sat in a half-circle on a raised platform. They were the Galactic Council, the rulers of 1,000 worlds, the judges of species, the keepers of peace across the stars. They had summoned Earth not to talk, not to negotiate. To answer, a voice filled the chamber, not from one mouth but from all of them at once, layered like echoes in a deep cave. Species Soul 3, it said. You were sent to observe the Skarn conflict. You were given no weapons, no fleet, no authority, only eyes, and yet the Skarn hegemony surrendered. Not to us, not to their enemies. To you. Elias stayed quiet for a long moment. The silence stretched. The blue lights in the walls dimmed slightly as if holding their breath. Then he spoke. His voice was calm, steady, and clear. We did not make them surrender. A low hiss came from the left side of the chamber. One of the council members, a tall being with a segmented body and a face like polished obsidian, leaned forward. Its voice was sharp like glass breaking. Do not insult our intelligence, human. The Skarn are warriors. They have burned planets for sport. They do not bow. They do not yield. And yet 3 days after your ship entered their space, their entire fleet powered down. Their warlord, Korvex, sent a single message across all channels. We surrender to the Silent Ones of Sol. What are the Silent Ones? What did you do? Elias looked up. Not with fear, not with pride. With something deeper, something the council could not name. We watched, he said. The chamber erupted. Shouts came from every direction. A gelatinous being in a glass sphere rippled with alarm. A crystalline figure chimed in sharp, angry tones. Even the floating beings, usually calm, flickered with bright pulses of light. You watched? Cried the obsidian judge. You expect us to believe that simply looking at them made an empire fall? Elias nodded slowly. Yes. The council fell silent again, stunned by his certainty. Behind Elias, a large screen flickered to life. On it, Earth appeared, blue, green, fragile. Cities glowed at night. Oceans turned under sunlight. It looked small, helpless. Nothing like the worlds of the council with their orbiting cities and planet-sized engines. And yet, something about it made the council uneasy, Elias continued. We were assigned to Echo 7, a listening post near the Skarn border. Our orders were clear: observe, record, report, do not interfere. We followed those orders. He paused, then added, but the Skarn saw us, and they thought we were something else. What? Demanded the obsidian judge. Elias did not answer right away. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small data chip. He held it up. Before I explain, let me show you what we saw. Let me show you why they surrendered. A murmur ran through the chamber. The council exchanged glances. This was not part of the trial. But curiosity won. Play it, said the central figure, a being made of shifting light known only as the Lumen Speaker. Elias inserted the chip into a port at his feet. The screen behind him changed. It showed a dark void of space. Stars glittered coldly. In the distance, a massive fleet hung like a swarm of angry insects, hundreds of jagged, spiked ships painted in blood red and black. The Skarn Armada. Then the view shifted inside one of their command ships. Harsh lights, growling voices. A warlord with scarred skin and burning eyes, Korvex, stood over a star map barking orders. But then, something changed. Korvex froze. His head turned slowly toward a blank wall. His eyes widened. On the screen, a faint image appeared in the reflection of his armor. 3 humans standing in a dim room, watching silently. No sound. No movement. Just watching. Korvex dropped to his knees. What is this? Whispered the obsidian judge. That was the moment, Elias said quietly. The moment they believed we were real. Believed you were what? Asked the Lumen Speaker. its voice softer now. Elias looked at the council one by one. "The silent ones," he said. A ripple of shock passed through the chamber. Some beings recoiled. Others leaned closer as if hearing a forbidden name. The legend was old, older than the council itself. It spoke of beings who appeared only when a civilization reached the edge of its own destruction. They did not speak, did not fight. They simply watched, and in their silence, the guilty saw themselves clearly for the first time. Many empires collapsed not from war but from shame. Most thought it was a myth, a story told to frighten children, but the Skarn remembered. They thought we were them, Elias said. We weren't. We were just humans on a broken-down station doing our job. But they saw us, and their history saw ghosts. The screen faded back to Earth. The council was silent for a long time. Then the obsidian judge spoke, voice low. "If this is true, if you truly did nothing but observe, then your species is more dangerous than any weapon." Elias shook his head. "We're not dangerous. We're honest. We don't hide. We don't pretend. Maybe that's what scared them." Another alert flashed on the chamber walls, red this time. Urgent. A new message scrolled across the screen. Zenth Dominion Fleet mobilizing. Destination, Sol System. The council turned to Elias, alarmed. "The Zenth?" said the Lumen speaker. "They are even more warlike than the Skarn." Elias's face tightened. They must have heard the rumors. Now they think Earth is home to these silent ones. "And they will either worship you," said the obsidian judge, "or destroy you to prove you're not real." Elias looked at the image of Earth once more. His home, his people, unarmed, unready. He turned back to the council. "You called us here to judge us," he said. "But maybe you should be asking, what happens when the whole galaxy starts watching us, and we start watching back?" The chamber fell into a deeper silence. Not the silence of judgment, but of fear. And for the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council did not have an answer. 6 weeks earlier, far from the polished halls of the Galactic Council, a small human ship drifted near the edge of known space. It was not built for war. It had no weapons, no shields strong enough to stop a serious attack, and engines that groaned like an old man climbing stairs. Its name was the Watchful Eye, and its job was simple: watch, listen, and report. On board were 3 humans. Elias Rourke, the mission leader, sat in the dim control room, eyes fixed on a screen showing the Skarn fleet gathering like storm clouds on the horizon. Beside him was Mara Voss, a linguist with thin wires running from her temples into a neural decoder. She could untangle alien languages faster than any machine. Across from them sat Dr. Tarek Lin, quiet and thoughtful, a specialist in how minds break or hold together under pressure. Their orders from Earth and the Galactic Concord were clear. Do not interfere. Do not speak. Do not be seen. Just observe the Skarn as they prepared to attack the planet Nivara, a small world that had joined the Concord years ago. The Skarn wanted it gone. The Concord wanted proof of their aggression. And Earth, new to interstellar politics, was trusted only because it had nothing to gain. For days, nothing happened. The Skarn ships moved in slow, practiced patterns. But then strange signals began to leak from their fleet. Not battle commands. Not troop movements, songs. Mara sat up straight one night, her fingers flying over her console. "They're broadcasting something." "But it's not military code. It's rhythmic. Almost like a chant." Tarek leaned over. "Play it." A low, deep hum filled the room, layered with sharp clicks and rising tones. It sounded ancient. Sad Mara's decoder flickered. Words began to form on the screen. "The hollow star watches. The silent ones return. We are seen." Elias frowned. "What does that mean?" "I don't know," Mara said, her voice tight. "But it's repeated every hour, on every Skarn channel. Even their warships are playing it." Tarek rubbed his temples. "This isn't preparation for war. This is preparation for judgment." Elias stared at the screen. The Skarn fleet was huge. Hundreds of ships, each armed with planet-cracking weapons. Yet they weren't firing. They weren't advancing. They were waiting. Then everything changed. A Skarn scout ship, small, fast, shaped like a blade, suddenly veered off course and locked onto the Watchful Eye's position. Alarms blared. "They found us!" Mara said. "How?" Elias demanded. "We're running silent. No emissions."
"Nothing."
Tarek's eyes widened. Maybe they didn't find us with sensors. Before anyone could ask what he meant, the comm panel lit up. A voice crackled through, not in Scarn, but in broken, halting standard. The language of the conquered, Grey Ones. Are you them? Elias exchanged glances with his team. Protocol said, ignore. Stay silent. But something in the voice, fear, awe, desperation, made him reach for the mic. This is Observer Station Echo 7, he said slowly. We are human. From Earth, we are here only to watch. Silence. Then a whisper, you watch? Yes, another pause. Longer this time. Then the channel went dead. Mara exhaled. That was Korvax, their warlord. I recognized his voice from old battle recordings. Tarek stood up, pacing. They think we're part of their myth. The silent ones, beings who appear before civilizations fall. But we're not, Mara said. Does it matter what we are? Tarek asked. It matters what they believe. That night, strange things began to happen in the Scarn fleet. Ships turned away from each other. Command signals were ignored. One vessel even fired on its own supply line, then powered down completely. Then came the broadcast. It came through every channel. Concord, Scarn, pirate nets, even the Watchful Eyes emergency band. A single image, Korvax kneeling on the bridge of his flagship, head bowed. Behind him, 3 figures stood in shadow, blurred, indistinct, but clearly human in shape. Wearing gray uniforms, watching, his voice was raw. We yield. Not to your weapons, not to your fleets. To the silent ones of Sol we are seen, and we are ashamed. The transmission ended. On the Watchful Eye, no one spoke for a full minute. They think we're ghosts, Mara whispered. No, Elias said. They think we're judges. Back in the present, inside the Galactic Council chamber, Elias finished showing the recording. The council members sat frozen. The obsidian judge's claws tapped slowly against its armrest. The lumen speaker's light dimmed to a soft amber. You claim you did nothing, said a new voice, deep, bubbling, from the gelatinous Krell representative. But your presence caused a collapse. That is influence. That is power. We didn't ask for it, Elias replied. We didn't plan it, we just existed in their line of sight at the wrong or right time, the Krell rippled. Intent does not matter. Effect does. You broke a war machine with silence. What else can you break? Before Elias could answer, another alert flashed on the chamber walls. Red again. Urgent. Zenth Dominion fleet has crossed the neutral zone, a synthesized voice announced. Estimated arrival at Sol System. 14 days. The obsidian judge turned to Elias. The Zenth do not believe in myths. They believe in strength. They will not surrender. They will test you. Elias's jaw tightened. Then they'll learn the truth. The truth? The lumen speaker asked. That you are ordinary, or that being ordinary is enough, Elias said quietly. Mara and Tarek's faces appeared on a small screen beside him, beamed live from Earth, where they had returned after the Scarn incident. Mara looked worried. Tarek looked determined. They're scared, Mara said over the comm. But not of us. Of what we represent, and what is that? Asked the obsidian judge. The idea, Tarek said, that someone is watching, and that someone doesn't look away. The council fell into uneasy silence. They had expected humans to be weak, naive, easy to control. Instead, they had sent observers and gotten mirrors. Elias looked up at the 12 judges. You brought us here to punish us for something we didn't do. But maybe you should ask why the Scarn surrendered to humans, and not to you. The question hung in the air like smoke. The lumen speaker finally spoke, its voice softer than before. Perhaps we have not been watching closely enough ourselves. Outside the chamber, stars burned cold and distant. On Earth, cities slept, unaware that warships were already heading their way. And in the void between worlds, something old stirred. Not because humans had called it, but because they had dared to stand still and look. Elias knew the Zenth would come. They would demand proof. They would test Earth's silence with fire. And humanity would have only one answer. They would watch, not as gods, not as warriors, just as people who refused to pretend the violence wasn't happening. The council could punish them. They could exile them, but they could not unsee what the Scarn had seen. A human was meant to observe diplomacy. But sometimes, just watching is the most powerful act of all. Deep in the heart of the Galactic Concord's central archive, buried beneath layers of encrypted data and forgotten treaties, there was a file no one was supposed to read. It was labeled only with a symbol, an eye with no pupil surrounded by silence. The file spoke of the Silent Ones. Elias had never heard of them before the Skarn surrendered. But now, standing in the council chamber with the weight of a galaxy's suspicion on his shoulders, he needed to understand. With reluctant permission from the Lumen speaker, he and Mara were granted access to the archive under guard. Under watch, under threat, the room was cold and dark, lit only by floating orbs that responded to thought. Mara placed her hands on a smooth console and the file opened. Words scrolled across the air like smoke. Long before the Concord, before the Skarn Empire, before even the oldest star charts, civilizations rose and fell. At their peak of power, when violence became routine and cruelty was called strength, the Silent Ones appeared. They wore simple clothes. They carried no weapons. They spoke no words. They simply stood in the halls of power, in the cockpits of warships, in the dreams of tyrants, and watched. Those who saw them could not unsee themselves. Empires crumbled not by force, but by truth. Mara's voice was barely a whisper. It's not a myth. It's a pattern. Tarek, watching from Earth through a secure link, added, every species that reached a certain level of technological arrogance developed stories like this. Not because the Silent Ones were real, but because their own guilt needed a face. But the Skarn believed, Elias said. And belief changed everything. Back on the Watchful Eye, weeks earlier, they had not known any of this. They had just been doing their job. But the Skarn had seen 3 humans in gray uniforms standing quietly in a dim room, and their history had filled in the rest. Their ancestors had told stories of beings who came when the universe grew tired of bloodshed. And when Elias answered Korvex's call, it confirmed their worst fear. Judgment had arrived. Now, the Zenth were coming. Unlike the Skarn, the Zenth had no such legends. They prided themselves on logic, on strength, on rejecting superstition. Their leader, Warlord Drex Vorn, had already broadcast a message across the Concord. The humans are frauds. They hide behind silence because they have no power. We will burn their world and prove the galaxy watches no one. Earth had no fleet to stop them, no shield strong enough to hold. The Concord refused to help. You caused this, they said. You deal with it. But Elias had an idea. If the Skarn surrendered because they believed we were the Silent Ones, he told the council, then maybe the Zenth need to see the same thing. The Obsidian judge scoffed. You cannot bluff a species that does not believe in ghosts. I'm not bluffing, Elias said. I'm offering them something real. His plan was simple and terrifying. He would take a small stealth corvette, the only ship Earth had that could slip past Zenth sensors, and position it at the edge of their space. Then, using hacked comm relays and old Concord backdoors, he would project live images of himself, Mara, and Tarek onto every Zenth command deck. Not as soldiers, not as diplomats, just as observers, standing, watching, silent. No words, Elias explained. No threats, just presence. The council argued for hours. Some called it madness. Others called it genius. The Lumen speaker finally spoke. If you do this and it fails, Earth will be destroyed, and we will not lift a finger. I know, Elias said. 3 days later, the corvette, named the Quiet Witness, slipped into Zenth territory. Inside, Elias, Mara, and Tarek wore their standard gray uniforms. No armor, no weapons, just comms, cameras, and courage. The first transmission went out at dawn on Zenth Prime. On every warship, in every command center, on every personal screen, the same image appeared. 3 humans, standing in a plain room lit by soft light. Elias in the center, hands clasped. Mara to his left, calm. Tarek to his right, eyes steady. They did not move. They did not speak. At first, nothing happened. Then Chaos Zenth officers laughed. Some called it a prank. Others ordered the signal blocked. But it kept returning. Through battle nets, through private channels, even through the Warlord's own private feed. Drex Vorn appeared on a public broadcast, face twisted in rage. This is human trickery. They think fear will stop us. We do not fear silence. We drown it in noise. He ordered his fleet to advance faster, but cracks began to show. A young Zenth pilot alone on patrol reported seeing the humans in his cockpit mirror, even though his ship was empty. A supply officer claimed the figures appeared in his dreams, watching as he signed orders for bombs meant for Earth cities. A general refused to launch a strike, saying, "If they are watching, let them see we are not monsters." Mara monitored the chatter. They're not believing the myth, she told Elias. They're creating their own. Tarek nodded. The human mind seeks meaning. So does the Zenth mind. When you give them silence, they fill it with their own fears. Then came the turning point. A Zenth admiral named Jorik, known for his honor, sent a private message to the quiet witness. Are you real? He asked. Elias did not answer with words. He simply held up a small screen showing live footage of Zenth ships arming missiles aimed at civilian colonies. Then he pointed to his own eyes. Jorik went silent for a long time. Then he said, I see. The next day, Jorik's fleet broke formation. He declared his sector neutral. If Earth is home to watchers, he said in a public address, then let them watch us choose peace. Drex Vorn was furious. He branded Jorik a traitor. But more ships began to hesitate. Elias knew they were winning, not with force, but with reflection. Then, disaster. Drex Vorn did not turn on Earth. He turned on the Galactic Council. If the humans are fake, he declared, then the Council must be too. They claim to keep order, but they let fear rule them. I will show the galaxy that no one watches, least of all them. His fleet changed course. Destination, the Council's home station. Alarms blared across the Concord. The Council, so sure of its power, had never imagined being the watched instead of the watcher. Elias received a frantic call from the Lumen speaker. You must stop him. I can't fight him, Elias said. Then make him see, the speaker replied. Elias understood. He redirected the quiet witness's broadcast, not to the Zenth, but to the entire Concord. He showed Drex Vorn's fleet charging toward the Council station. He showed the panic in the Council chambers. He showed the hidden files proving the Concord had secretly sold weapons to the Skarn years ago, fueling the very war they claimed to stop. And then, on every screen in the galaxy, Elias appeared, not in silence this time, but speaking clearly. You judged us for being seen, he said. But who watches you? The words spread like fire. Minor species rose up. Trade worlds demanded answers. Even loyal Concord members questioned their leaders. Drex Vorn's fleet slowed. His crew began to argue. Was this justice or revenge? Back on the quiet witness, Mara whispered, We didn't plan this. No, Elias said, but maybe it needed to happen. The galaxy had spent centuries believing power came from weapons, from laws, from thrones. But humanity had shown something else, that truth, when seen clearly, is its own kind of force, and now, the whole galaxy was watching, not just Earth, but itself. Elias looked out the viewport at the stars. Somewhere out there, Drex Vorn was deciding whether to fire, and somewhere deeper, in the quiet between galaxies, something ancient stirred, not because humans had summoned it, but because they had dared to stand still. And look, the price of being seen was high, but the cost of looking away was higher. The Zenth warlord Drex Vorn did not believe in ghosts. He believed in steel and fire, in the clean certainty of a weapon in hand. So when his fleet turned toward the Galactic Council's central station, he did not see it as an act of madness, but of proof. If the humans were frauds, then the Council was too. And if no one was truly watching, then power belonged to whoever struck first. His ships moved fast, cutting through neutral space like knives. The Council's defenses scrambled, but they were built for show, not war. Their elite guard, polished, proud, and unused to real threat, froze when alarms blared. For the first time in centuries, they felt exposed, and that was when Elias made his move. From the quiet witness now hovering near the edge of Council space, he did not send threats. He did not plead. He broadcast truth. Footage flooded every public channel, every private comm, every news feed across the Concord. It showed Council envoys meeting in secret with Skarn arms dealers. It showed credits flowing from Concord accounts to warlords. It showed the very conflict Elias had been sent to observe, fueled not by Skarn rage alone, but by Concord greed. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. Minor species, those who had paid tribute for protection, who had lost worlds to unavoidable conflicts, saw the lies laid bare. Trade guilds halted shipments. Diplomatic missions were recalled. Even loyal member worlds demanded answers. Inside the Council chamber, chaos reigned. The Obsidian judge slammed its claws on the table. This is treason! No, said the Lumen speaker, its light dim and heavy. It is accountability. Elias's voice came through every speaker, calm and clear. You called us here to explain why the Skarn surrendered, but maybe you should explain why you let them rise in the first place. Drex Vorn's fleet slowed. His bridge was silent. On his main screen, the broadcast played on loop, the Council's secrets, the humans' words, the faces of 1,000 species watching back. His second in command, a scarred veteran named Vexa, spoke softly. Warlord, what if they are right? What if we are just another weapon in their game? Drex Vorn's fist clenched. Silence. We do not bow to stories. But doubt had taken root. Meanwhile, on Earth, cities held their breath. No bombs had fallen. No ships had fired. But everyone knew the Zenth could still turn. Elias had bought time, but time was running out. Mara worked tirelessly, monitoring Zenth comms. They're arguing, she told Elias over a secure line. Half the fleet wants to stand down. The other half says turning back is weakness. Tarek added, Drex Vorn's entire identity is built on strength. If he surrenders now, he loses everything. Then we give him another choice, Elias said. He prepared a new broadcast, not of secrets this time, of people. He showed children in Zenth schools learning history that glorified war. He showed mothers on border worlds praying for sons not to be drafted. He showed workers building ships they would never see fly. And then he showed Earth, ordinary humans walking streets, tending gardens, arguing over small things, living quiet lives. This is what we protect, Elias said. Not power, not pride, just life. The message was simple, human, real. On the Zenth flagship, Drex Vorn watched it alone. For the first time, he did not see enemies. He saw reflections. Back at the council station, the panic had turned to shame. The Krell representative floated lower in its sphere. The Obsidian judge sat motionless. Even the Lumen speaker's light flickered like a heartbeat. Then a new signal came through. Not from the Zenth, not from Earth, but from the outer colonies. A dozen small fleets from species long ignored by the conquered formed a loose line between Drex Vorn and the Council. We will not let you destroy them. Their joint message read, but we also will not let the Council hide. The galaxy was no longer watching just Earth. It was watching itself. Drex Vorn stood on his bridge, staring at the stars. His hand hovered over the firing command. One press and the council station would burn. One press and he would prove no one was watching. But then he remembered the image that had haunted him since the broadcast began. 3 humans, standing in silence, not flinching as empires fell around them. He lowered his hand. Hail the human ship, he ordered. On the quiet witness, Elias answered immediately. Drex Vorn's face filled the screen, hard, tired, but no longer angry. You say you are only observers, he said. Then observe this. He transmitted new orders to his fleet. All weapons powered down. All ships held position. I will not attack, he said. Not because I believe in your silent ones, but because I refuse to be the monster in someone else's story. Elias nodded. That is enough, but the moment was fragile. The Council still had not admitted its crimes. The Zenth fleet still hovered like a storm. And Earth remained defenseless. Then something unexpected happened. A small ship, unmarked, unarmed, approached the quiet witness. It carried Jorik, the Zenth admiral who had broken ranks. He requested to speak with Elias in person. Aboard the corvette, Jorik removed his helmet. His face was lined with age and regret. My people have spent generations proving we are strong, he said. But strength without truth is just noise. He handed Elias a data chip. This is everything the Zenth know about the Council's dealings. Use it. Elias took it. Why help us? Jorik looked out the viewport at Earth, a pale blue dot in the distance. Because someone has to start watching the Watchers. As Jorik's ship departed, Mara whispered, We're not just observers anymore, are we? No, Elias said. We're witnesses, and witnesses have a duty. He sent the new data to every species in the Conquered. The truth spread faster than any fleet. Protests erupted on capital worlds. Council envoys were recalled. Reforms were demanded. The old order was crumbling, not from war but from light. Drex Vorn, watching from his flagship, finally understood. The humans had not defeated him with weapons or lies. They had simply refused to look away, and in doing so, they had given everyone else permission to see. He ordered his fleet to return home, but before he left, he sent one last message to Elias. If your kind ever needs allies, the Zenth will remember who stood still. On Earth, people cheered. On the council station, leaders whispered in fear. And in the quiet between stars, something ancient and patient watched, not with judgment, but with hope. For the first time in a long time, the galaxy was not just being ruled, it was being seen, and that changed everything. The Galactic Council did not fall in a day. Empires never do. But the cracks were deep and they spread fast. After the truth spilled across every channel, after the Zenth stood down, after minor worlds rose up, after even loyal members turned away, the Council had no choice. It called a full assembly, not in secret but in open broadcast. For the first time in its history, it would be watched by all. Elias stood once more in the judgment chamber, but everything had changed. The Obsidian Judge no longer loomed with authority. The Krell floated lower, humbled. The lumen speaker's light was soft, steady like a candle in a quiet room. And around the chamber, new faces sat. Representatives from species once ignored, now given seats at the table. The old council was gone. In its place rose a new body, the Concord Assembly. Its first act was not to punish, but to confess. The lumen speaker spoke for them all. We failed. We traded peace for profit. We let fear guide us, not wisdom. And when humanity showed us the truth, we tried to blame them for holding up the mirror. Elias said nothing. He did not need to. The assembly then made its ruling. Earth would not be punished. Instead, it would be given a permanent seat, not as a junior member but as guardian of observation. A role with no weapons, no fleet, but one power. The right to watch, to question, and to speak truth without fear. Mara and Tarek watched from Earth, tears in their eyes. They had not asked for this. They had only done their duty. But the galaxy had seen something in them, something rare. As the ceremony ended, Elias stepped out of the chamber and onto a viewing platform overlooking the stars. Below, ships from 100 worlds drifted in peaceful formation. The Zenth flagship hung at the edge, its weapons dark. Jorik had stayed, not as an enemy, but as a friend. Mara's voice came through his earpiece. "They're calling you a hero." Elias shook his head, though no one could see. "We didn't do anything special. We just refused to look away. That's the rarest thing of all," Tarek said quietly. Back on Earth, life returned to normal. But not quite. Children learned new lessons in school, not just about stars and atoms, but about responsibility, about silence, about what it means to witness. Cities did not build walls. They built open squares, places where people could gather and speak plainly. The myth of the silent ones grew, but Elias made sure it stayed grounded. "We are not gods," he told reporters. "We are humans, and humans make mistakes. But we also see them. And that's how we grow." Months passed. The Concord Assembly worked slowly, painfully, to undo old wrongs. Trade deals were rewritten. Weapons programs were shut down. Colonies once forced into silence now had voices. And through it all, Earth's small diplomatic corps, now called observers, traveled the stars. Not to command, not to conquer, just to be present, to listen, to watch. One evening, Elias stood alone on the roof of Earth's new embassy in orbit. The planet turned below him, blue and calm. Mara joined him, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Do you ever wonder," she asked, "if we were meant to do this? If something older guided us?" Elias looked at the stars. Maybe. Or maybe the universe just needed someone willing to stand still long enough to see what was really happening. He thought of the Skarn, now rebuilding as a peaceful society. Of the Zenth, teaching their children that strength includes mercy. Of the countless species who no longer whispered in fear but spoke openly. They had not won a war. They had changed a culture. Then a message came in, urgent but calm. It was from the far edge of known space. A new species just reaching the stars had detected human signals. They sent a simple question. "Are you the ones who watch?" Elias smiled. He typed a reply. "We are. And we see you too." He sent it, then turned to Mara. "It never ends, does it?" "No," she said. "But that's okay. Someone has to keep watching." Far away in the deep void between galaxies, where no ship had ever flown and no signal had ever reached, something stirred. Not a being, not a force, just a presence, old, patient, and satisfied. It had waited a long time for someone to understand that true power was not in ruling, but in seeing clearly. And now, at last, the galaxy had students. Elias looked down at Earth one last time. His home, small, fragile, but unbroken. They had faced judgment, war, and doubt, and they had not hidden. They had stood in the light, gray uniforms and all, and let the truth do its work. He whispered to the stars, "We never meant to be gods. We just refused to look away." And somewhere in the silence between worlds, the universe nodded.